Let's be honest, what confuses a man most isn't rejection, but rather strained friendships, delayed responses, prolonged laughter, and the way you convince yourself of everything without saying a word. The hidden anxiety in your chest isn't an illusion, it's a recognition of certain patterns. Tonight I'm going to show you something most men only see too late. I think I'll tell you this as a woman who knows how to hide her desires when showing them off isn't appropriate. Women learn from a young age how to suppress their desires, how to hide them when they feel threatened, complicated, or socially embarrassed. So instead of being overtly flirtatious, the attraction feels subtly secondary. It hides behind a mask of comfort because it's easy to talk to you, like saying, "I trust you." Friendship becomes a mask, not the truth. This is the first thing men misunderstand. When a woman sees you as a true friend, your presence doesn't affect her mood. You're neutral. You feel comfortable, yes. Yes, but it's not exciting. When she feels a subtle attraction, your presence changes the atmosphere. Even when the conversations aren't meaningful, they feel powerful. The silence doesn't feel empty, it feels complete. Notice how she listens to you, not politely, not passively, but with her whole body listening to your words. She remembers small details she didn't think were important, then recalls them weeks later. This isn't kindness, it's an investment. Attraction is invested before it manifests. Pay attention to when she connects with you emotionally, not just when you're upset, but also when you're anxious, stressed, or shocked. Women don't connect emotionally with men who feel nothing. They do this with supportive, assertive, and quietly attractive men. If she turns to you in a moment of vulnerability, it means her door is open, even safe. Another subtle sign is her adherence to boundaries. If a woman isn't attracted to you, her boundaries are strong and subconscious. But when attraction is present and unspoken, these boundaries become more apparent. She allows things she doesn't allow others, then suddenly withdraws. This attraction and repulsion isn't deception. It's an internal struggle and a need for careful discussion. Observe how she reacts to your absence. If you step back a little, clarify things, communicate with her, ask questions, and create reasons to connect, it won't be a coincidence. Attraction hates distance, while friendship tolerates it. This is where many men panic and overreact. Don't. Distance doesn't kill attraction, it reveals it. She has a way of keeping you in her world, and she's in no hurry to name it. You'll remain anonymous, not because you're nothing, but because revealing yourself would force you to make a decision you're not ready for. Desire becomes shrouded in mystery when the timing seems inappropriate. I want to clarify this. If she considered you merely a friend, none of this would seem so perplexing. Confusion isn't a sign of disinterest, it's a sign of abandonment, and control always leaves its mark. Now, the important thing isn't to force her to open up, but to remain silent. Attraction is found in men who don't seek certainty, but rather command attention. If you are self-sufficient, attentive, and independent, what you've been hiding will eventually surface without you even asking. Silence, patience, and strength make concealing the truth impossible. What most men don't realize is that attraction begins with flirting. It starts with seemingly selective attention. When a woman is secretly attracted to you, she'll treat you differently, even if you're not fully aware of it. Her voice softens in response to yours. Her energy shifts. She becomes more expressive, more vibrant, or sometimes quieter in an intimate way. This change isn't accidental. Her nervous system is responding to you. Listen carefully to how she talks about other men around you. When she's not attracted to you, she speaks freely, almost carelessly. But when she is, she modifies her words. She downplays her desires, exaggerates her flaws, or mentions them in a way that sounds compelling, not to impress you, but to control how you perceive her. Women can't control their emotions when they're with men who seem indifferent. Another sign is her desire for your approval without explicitly asking for it. She might mention things she's unsure about and wait. She might ask for your opinion and wait for your response. And she might make subtle changes in her behavior after you give your opinion. This isn't out of kindness. It's a conscious relationship. Attraction isn't about need. It's about desire. Notice how physical closeness works. She might not touch you directly, but she'll find reasons to get closer. She might stand closer than necessary, sit next to you even if there's room elsewhere, lean forward when you speak, then step back slightly, then withdraw. The body reveals things that words cannot express. When attraction is subtle, it speaks through distance. Something also matters in how you respond to your own self-confidence. Not vanity, not success, but quiet selfishness. When you talk about your goals, your values, your standards, do you become more attentive, more curious, more thoughtful? Attraction responds to established masculinity. This isn't friendship. If you let your self-esteem get the better of you emotionally, she won't see you. Too many men make the mistake of trying to project themselves on this level. They become too friendly, too helpful, and too quiet. It might feel safe, but it's not fun. Hidden attraction no longer needs consolation. It requires balance. It requires you to maintain equilibrium in your life, not to revolve around it. When you stop seeking clarity and begin to embrace certainty, profound changes occur. Notice what happens when you gently challenge her feelings simply by looking at her, not by confronting her. If she is more attentive than defensive, this is an attraction that responds to strength. Women don't waste their energy trying to impress or convince uninterested men. Emotional conflict remains emotional attachment. Here's a hidden truth most men don't admit. If a woman is secretly distancing herself, she's imagining a situation she wouldn't allow herself to accept, and imagining what things would be like if things were different. What's holding you back isn't a lack of desire, but rather fear of consequences, social norms, time constraints, and a sense of loss of control. Therefore, patience is more important than pressure. Your role isn't to force someone to confess, but to remain a balanced, happy, and independent individual. Attraction thrives when emotional security and a masculine orientation prevail. If you can create this space for her without rushing her, she'll feel safer revealing what she's been hiding instead of suppressing it. There's a moment that reveals more than any confession. It's the moment she realizes other women are noticing. When that happens, something changes inside her. Not drastically, but in a way you might not notice if you hadn't seen it. Her voice changes. Her questions have become more specific. Suddenly, she wants to know more about your life, your plans, and your daily schedule. This isn't a coincidence. It's a desire that fuels competition. Women don't feel any urgency toward men who don't appreciate them. If she's truly indifferent, your choices won't affect her emotionally. But if the attraction is subtle, she'll consider missing the opportunity to meet you. This is childish jealousy, not understanding. Understanding breeds clarity. Notice how you behave when you're absent, when you're not cold, when you're busy, when you're alive. If you start mimicking your efforts, initiating a relationship, or making excuses to reconnect, this isn't a friendship striving to last, but an attraction trying to maintain the connection. Friendship respects personal space. This means that attraction is negotiable. Another telltale sign is that she tests you with emotional questions, not games. She might ask what you want in a woman, what your views are on relationships, and what your boundaries are. These aren't random questions, they're measurement tools. She's calmly comparing herself to your standards and asking if she's a good fit for you. Women only compare themselves to men's mindsets if they are concerned about their own status. Pay attention to how you handle your vulnerabilities. If you are more open to sharing something genuine, even if it's not perfect, that's a true friendship. It's an emotional intimacy that grows stronger. Attraction thrives on authenticity, not pretense. When you reveal the depth of your feelings and draw closer to her, you're not treating her like a loyal friend, but rather as someone who sees and is seen. There's also a way to maintain this relationship. You might feel awkward when others joke with you both, and you might avoid labels while still maintaining intimacy. This tension isn't rejection, but rather hesitation. Passion often masks itself with caution when the stakes are high, especially for women who fear losing their emotional stability by expressing their attraction too soon. This is where men often make things worse, rushing to confess their feelings to alleviate their anxiety. But attraction doesn't grow under pressure. It grows gradually. The more relaxed you are, the freer she feels to explore her feelings without fear of the consequences. Emotional leadership isn't about control, it's about commitment. If you feel the urge to change the situation, restrain yourself. The situation is already changing. Hidden attraction gradually reveals itself over time, in poignant moments. As you continue to choose yourself, invest in yourself, and respond to your inner strength, the truth will emerge. Understand this well. Don't try to win over a woman who is emotionally distant from you. Avoid giving her a reason to stay distant. Be respectful. Be a little selfish. Maintain your emotional presence without being emotionally dependent on her. This balance is rare and attractive. When a woman senses this with you, it's harder to deny what she's hiding than to confront it. When that moment arrives, it won't feel unexpected. It will feel inevitable. One of the clearest signs of her subtle attraction to you is your response without pursuing her, not by disappearing, not by playing games, but by focusing solely on yourself. Don't rush your answer, don't elaborate, and don't try to get her attention. Suddenly she becomes more expressive, more open, and perhaps even a little anxious. That's because attraction waits for someone to seek it out. And when it doesn't come, it manifests. A woman who sees you as just a friend is comfortable with your feelings, and she believes it too. But a woman who feels more than friendship but doesn't believe it will immediately feel as if she doesn't exist. Your calm self-control allows her space to express her feelings. The silence is powerful and the distance is clear. This isn't betrayal, it's emotional attraction. Observe her reaction when she rejects you, when you prioritize your time without altering your schedule to accommodate her urgent needs. If she respects you more, feels emotionally close to you, or you become more considerate of her, this is an attraction that responds to power. Friendship has no boundaries, and neither does desire. It also involves your self-perception, your language, your sense of humor, and your overall mood. When there is attraction, women subconsciously adapt to the man they are drawn to. The goal isn't to impress her, but to make her feel close to you. If you notice her picking up on your phrases, tone of voice, and even your rhythm, that's emotional affinity. And this isn't limited to platonic relationships. Another subtle indicator is how she shifts her attention to you when conversations focus on her problems, feelings, and the world around her, rather than on her. If she becomes more interested in you, asks deeper questions, or encourages you to talk more, it won't be boring. It's a desire to boost your self-confidence. Attraction requires mutual depth, not one-sided support. Many men equate emotional support with attraction, believing that listening, helping, and being physically present will ultimately overcome desire. This doesn't happen. Emotional support without respect creates comfort, not spark. Emotional presence coupled with self-respect is what creates attraction. When you feel you don't need her approval, but she still appreciates your presence, the situation changes. Often there's a moment of silence that speaks volumes. When you don't do it for her, she looks at you. When you're preoccupied with something else, talking to someone else, or pursuing your own goals, her gaze, if not unexpectedly, isn't friendship, but rather admiration tinged with desire. Women don't appreciate men who feel isolated, so understand this well. If she secretly dislikes you, she'll observe your actions, how you handle frustration, how you talk about others, and your overall behavior in the world. When a woman feels confident in guiding a man's emotions, her attraction to him increases, not because he controls her, but because he controls himself. Your strength here lies in patience, not passively waiting, but actively exercising self-control. The more attentive you are, the more she will be able to conceal her feelings. And above all, attraction requires expression. And when that happens, it doesn't even come in words. It comes as an effort, a drive, an opening to an emotional void she can no longer control. There's a final layer most men don't recognize because it requires restraint, not action. At this point, her attraction ceases to be theoretical and begins to transform into emotional danger. Her behavior then becomes erratic. Her moods are volatile, ranging from intense enthusiasm to coldness, and she can be playful rather than suddenly possessive. Men often misinterpret this as disinterest, when in reality it's quite the opposite, a mixture of attraction and fear. When a woman hears something she doesn't want to hear, especially from a man she considers a source of security, her mind seeks to control. She'll test your composure to see if you've regained your emotional balance. She'll take a step back to see if you're being impulsive. She'll observe your reaction to any change in the situation. If you're calm, steady, and balanced, she'll respect you more. She won't trust nervous men. Pay attention to how you handle emotional moments. If you talk about it and then downplay it, joke about it, or pretend it wasn't a big deal, that's not indifference. It's a vulnerability headache. I showed you something real, and then I felt vulnerable. Women don't feel vulnerable with uninterested men. Another great sign is the way you talk about the future. No plans, no promises, just some time. We should try this someday. You'll love this place. It reminds me of me. These aren't formal invitations yet. They're more like emotional cues. She's keeping them in mind for your future together before she's ready to make them public. Notice how she's careful to have a clear picture of herself in your mind. She's clarifying herself, removing any misunderstandings, and considering how her actions will appear to you. This level of anxiety isn't present in platonic relationships. She doesn't fear misunderstanding, she fears attraction. At this stage, many men feel an overwhelming urge to escalate the relationship through conversation, to express themselves, and to question her place in the relationship. This urge stems from fear, not consent. But the truth is, if the attraction is genuine, it has already begun. Words don't accelerate it. They force her into a defensive posture before she's ready. The secret to attractiveness lies in emotional security combined with masculine security. You don't have to attract love, nor do you have to be cold. It's enough to be consistent, warm without being demanding, present without being dependent, caring without being driven by results. This balance demonstrates your ability to move forward without anxiety. There is a special allure in a man who doesn't try to extract the truth from a woman's confusion. A man who allows her to reach her own conclusions makes her feel safe and empowered, and her inner resistance weakens. Subtle attraction always requires implicit consent, not verbal approval, but emotional acceptance. If you don't force her to talk about it, she'll feel freer. When feelings are allowed to grow, they will. Eventually, her desire will become overwhelming. She'll start wanting more. She'll invest more. She'll stop spending. Spending can't be hidden forever. Then action becomes necessary. This is the truth that connects everything. And it's the part most men never hear because it requires emotional discipline rather than strategy. If she secretly likes you, it's not about whether you'll say the right thing or not. It's about staying true to yourself despite the lack of guarantees. Attraction isn't for men who seek security, but for men who are confident and can persevere. You've probably noticed that by now. She supports you when you're in a difficult situation. She hesitates when you're in a hurry. Her curiosity grows when you take the lead. This isn't a coincidence. Women, by nature, respond to emotional leadership, not impulsive actions. Leadership isn't about control, and it's not about stability. She needs to appreciate you without knowing who you are. If you're wavering between friendship and another relationship, it's because you represent an opportunity without pressure. You feel safe with a sense of mystery, familiar with a lack of boredom. This combination is rare, and rare things take time to build trust, especially if attraction wasn't part of the original plan. The final sign isn't something you do, but something you stop doing. She stops checking up, she stops being attracted, she stops carefully managing the relationship. When attraction is conscious, the effort is consistent. It's evident without excuses and invested without hesitation. She no longer needs ambiguity to protect herself because she feels emotionally safe in your presence. So it's not your job to push her away. If she's withdrawing secretly, she's already done it. It's not your job to eliminate yourself from the game with impulsive reactions, desperate needs, or impatience. Men who lose at this level don't give up. They destroy themselves by trying to control what little breathing room they need. Understand this important thing. The woman you choose doesn't start with her words. It begins with the calm that surrounds you. When she feels calm instead of hesitant, her attraction to you will become apparent. When she feels she won't lose herself searching for you, her longing for you will flow naturally. If you feel confused, doubtful, or uncertain about her behavior, this isn't weakness. It's a sign of awakening. Most men don't question the nature of the relationship. They will either follow you or fall completely behind. You have remained steadfast. You have noticed this, and that in itself propels you forward. Now ask yourself honestly, and don't rush to answer. If you no longer needed to evaluate her today, if you were completely convinced that you were sufficient whether she was there or not, how would you act differently? Comparison is what defines everything. Men with self-respect and patience demonstrate clarity of mind. If you feel any change while listening, please share your response in the comments. Write what feels true, not what feels comfortable. If this video has given you a clarity you never had before, please like it so that more men can hear this message. Subscribe if you'd like more open conversations. Share this with a friend who's going through a tough time and doesn't know what to do.